And welcome to the Cardinals Nest. This is the first show of 2023. I'm the faculty athletics representative for St. Mary's, Dean Beckman. My co-host here on the Cardinals Nest is Donny Nadeau, our sports information director. Donny, Happy New Year. We're coming to you from the Jerry and Pat Pappenfuss Multimedia Lab in Aquinas Hall on the campus of St. Mary's University. Our producer is A.J. Ruskowski, and Donny, welcome back for another not season, but a new year of the Cardinals.
New year, absolutely. And when you think that I started in 1995, it sounds really long when you say 2023. So very excited to be here, and very, very excited for our guest today, having Raheem Anthony on from the men's basketball team. He's had such an amazing career, and this year has just been like the cherry on the top, and really excited to just sit down with him and talk about his successes, but probably more importantly, and I guarantee he'll agree, the successes of the men's team. And it's been a lot of fun so far this year watching them play, and excited to have him on to talk men's basketball.
Yeah, so we'll have him on later. As such, we are the only ones to slow Raheem down this year. We have played the best defense of anyone.
That's right, absolutely.
But first, we're going to talk about some of the other sports going on at St. Mary's before we get to men's basketball. And we'll start out with the hockey teams, Donny, because both teams have had some multi-game win streaks. The men's team, which we'll get to later, had a 5-game winning streak recently. The women's team, which we'll talk about now, is on a 3-game win streak.
Yeah, I'm sure that Coach Murray would have liked to have not had break start when it did, because they came off of 2 shutout wins over Lawrence, 3-0 and 8-0 heading into the break, and came back last Saturday, first game of the new year, and beat UW-Stevens Point 2-1 in overtime. So they had to get a little extra work in, but certainly a good 3 wins for them. They'll head into St. Olaf this weekend with riding a pretty good feeling heading into the conference play again, finishing off non-conference with a victory like that. So they're playing very well. They're getting, as we've talked many times, they're getting solid goaltending. That's 3 games they've given up 1 goal, so that's outstanding. And they're getting offensive production from a lot of people, including Sidney Polzin with the OT game winner on Saturday. So things are really kind of starting to gel. I know we talked earlier in the year, they started out pretty slow and a very tough schedule to open the season, and now that they're into full force into conference play, they're playing very well, and that's what you want. Playing your best right now.
Right. You look at the wins that they've had versus the losses, the common denominator, and maybe it's a little bit of common sense, but it is goal scoring, right? When they score 3 goals or more, they're more than likely to win the game.
Absolutely, so. And they've got to do that. I mean, that's, Jordan and Celeste have been doing a great job in goal, but you can't always expect them to get a shutout or give up 1 goal. There's going to be games where they're going to give up, 2, 3 goals, and those are still games that you should win. You should be able to put the puck in the net, and that's certainly going to be a focus of emphasis for them moving forward.
And we'll talk about the schedule later, but 1-5 in the conference. Conference games remain, a bunch of conference games left, so this is kind of the sweet spot of the season.
Absolutely,
right?
and you look at who they've played already, and in conference they've got Augsburg, they've got Hamlet, both nationally ranked. So I think that it's just like their overall record. I think their conference record's a little bit deceiving, and they've got 12 conference games left. So here we go. It's conference push now is what all of our sports are into now.
Yep, absolutely. Men's hockey, we mentioned them. We're on a 5-game winning streak. Just suffered a non-conference loss to end that, but Coach Egan, after a tough start to the season, similar to the women's team where they had a lot of high-quality non-conference opponents early on, now has his team at an even 500 on the season.
Yeah, and they're
7-7-1.
They're playing really well, and it's exciting now. They've got 10 conference games left, and I really like where they're at. 3-3 in the conference is. Certainly he'd like to be 6-0, but 3-3 is not a bad spot to be right now, having already played nationally ranked Augsburg, one of the best teams in the country. So I think I like where they're sitting. The thing I like but don't like is the way they played last week, because they had 2 games. They played they had 3 games, but they played Lawrence on last Tuesday. They were down 2-0 and had to come back and for a 6-3 win, but they were down 2-0, had to come back. They turn around on Friday, they're down 3-0 to a team they probably should not be down 3-0 to, and come back and get a 5-4 overtime win. So it's exciting, But I think Coach Egan would rather see a 6-3 win where you're up 5-1 or something like that. And then, as you said, they lost to a very tough UW-Eau Claire team on Saturday to break their winning streak, and they're playing really well, and that's what you want. It's just like the women; they're playing very well. They're getting a lot of goal scoring. Hats off to Nikita Shebarov, who had a hat trick against Lawrence, first one in a couple years for St. Mary's. So good to see him really producing. He had 4 goals on the week, which is really an outstanding week for him. And it was good to see our producer AJ Ruskowski between the pipes and did very well against both Northland and against UW-Eau Claire. So it's fun to see him play too.
Absolutely. And you talk about them keeping you on the edge of their seat, right? The other thing that I think is impressive about this men's hockey team is the depth that they're showing. You mentioned Shebarov's hat trick, but every single game it seems like it's different players stepping up, different players that we're talking about each week here on the Nest.
No question. And I guess we really got to mention Kellen Theraldson. He's having an outstanding senior year. He leads the team with 11 assists, which is phenomenal for a defenseman. And he's really coming on as kind of a setter up, so to speak, and he's the person that gets the puck to the guys that are going to put it in the net, and is doing a really good job of that right now.
Yeah. The other player we need to mention briefly here is Alberts Kursens. He's now playing for the Latvia national team.
Yeah,
right?
It's pretty exciting in the World University Games in New York. He's a member of the Latvian team, and we're all pulling for him and looking forward to seeing how he does. They start up on Wednesday with their first game of round robin play. So that's really a great honor for him, and really it says something about St. Mary's as well. It's a nice thing to have somebody who gets to represent a different country in a world championship.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we bring Raheem Anthony on from the men's basketball team to talk men's hoops, women's basketball, Donnie, they had a trip right after Christmas. They went to a little bit of a warmer climate, Nashville, Tennessee, for a tournament down there.
Yeah, and they played very well. They played 2 teams that they'd never faced before in Penn State Barron and then MIT, and they split their 2 games there, and then came back and dropped a couple of really heartbreakers to Hamlin and to St. Benedict. That team right now is playing. Their record does not indicate how well they're playing. Mm-hmm. They're doing an outstanding job. They've just, I think, not a basketball mind, but I think that they need to get off to a better start. Yeah. They struggled offensively in the first quarter against both Hamlin and St. Ben's, played outstanding in the second, third, and fourth quarters, but it's just when you're down by 10 or 12 or 14 points in the first quarter, it makes it very, very tough to come back. Unless, of course, you're the men's team who come back after giving up 21 in a row against St. John's. But it is tough to have to play from behind like that and try to come back. But they've got a lot of talent on that team, and Caitlin Cruz has really come on as somebody who's really going to be somebody that they can count on in the post, and is doing a phenomenal job. And then you've got Izzy Gettleman and Brooklyn Paulson and Ashley Streveler and Grayson Hartjes, and the list goes on. Yeah. They're very talented. They've just got to be able to put it all together and get off to a good start to some of these games.
And one player that I've really noticed this year and sort of as of late, especially in the second half, as you said, is Alyssa Coleman. She's really hit some big baskets inside and gives them some tremendous rebounding.
Yeah, she's playing really well. And I mean, you look at where she's come from last year to this year. She's really improved her game and is somebody that they can really look to, and she's not just giving you minutes. She's somebody they're relying on to produce both on the offensive end and the defensive end, and is really doing an outstanding job.
And I think a potential star of the future is Grace Schaefer. If she's able to continue to develop, she's as athletic as anyone on the court.
I think the thing with Grace and several of the freshmen is that they get to kind of learn. They get to be weaned into the rather than hey, we got to throw you guys to the wolves and good luck. They get to put in their minutes, kind of experience what this MIAC war is like, and not have to be relied on to be one of the main figures. I think that's very important, and I think it's something that you look at the men's team, and they were able to do that as well with a Brayton Beisman and Owen Ziegler. Even when he was a freshman, they didn't have to throw them to the wolves right away. Mm-hmm. They were able to kind of work their way in and kind of take their lumps, but only in small doses rather than in big doses.
So let's take a look at this upcoming weekend schedule, Donnie, as the hockey teams are back in action along with the basketball teams.
Busy week for everybody. Both basketball teams have Bethel on Wednesday. The men are the men are at home again, fourth time in a row they'll be at home on Wednesday. Women are on the road, and then this weekend on Friday, Saturday, it's a 2-game MIAC series for both the men and women hockey teams against St. Olaf. The women are home on Friday, men are home on Saturday, and then basketball, they head to St. Scholastica. They get the trip to Duluth on Saturday to take on the Saints. So it's a busy weekend for basketball and for hockey, and should be some outstanding action here at St. Mary's.
Yep, no question about it. And now we welcome in Raheem Anthony, senior on the men's basketball team. And Donnie, I know we've got a lot to talk to Raheem about. Raheem, first of all, thank you for being on the show. And what do you think? Have Donnie and I played the best defense, keeping you off of the set for about 10 minutes there, as any team has this year?
So far, yeah. You guys played the best defense, I guess.
Well, Raheem, thanks for being here. Before we talk about the season and your career, talk a little bit about how you got to St. Mary's. What was what brought you to St. Mary's, and you know, I mean, aside from your brother, because I think that probably was part of it. But talk a little bit about how your travels ended up bringing you to St. Mary's.
Okay. I started off, a little bit came from my brother. He played 4 or 5 years here, and my AAU coach actually went to St. Mary's. Forgot what year. Coach Mullins actually came to St. Mary's, so I had a bunch of talks with him about the environment, how it is here. Also, my principal at my high school also went to St. Mary's, so that's a bigger influence, and she loves us, and I love her, so I took her word for it, and yeah, I'm here now, and I like the environment. Stayed all 4 years.
And what are you majoring in?
Communications.
Okay.
Yep.
So I get to have Raheem in a lot of classes over the course of the 4 years, but especially the last couple of years, public relations and digital media specifically.
Well, and I know that he's just going to poo-poo this, but congratulations are in order. MIAC Offensive Player of the Week this week.
Thank you.
And D3Hoops.com Team of the Week.
Thank
Second
you.
week in a row. Congratulations.
Thank
Great
you.
honors. And I know that because I look at your tweets when you respond to the tweets that I send out, and you know, team effort and whatnot. But those are great honors individually, and I think that you know, sometimes you have to just say, okay, fine, you get to praise me for a minute. But congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, one of the things I want to ask you about is sort of how you see your development over the 4 years, because even when you came in as a freshman, yes, you were playing, but it certainly wasn't the minutes that you're playing now. You weren't seen as the team leader like you are now and all of that. There is an adjustment, right, from high school to collegiate athletics, especially at a D3 school that's in a really good conference like St. Mary's is in the MIAC. So kind of talk about that development over the span of these 4 years.
I start by giving credit to some of the guys before me. So when I first came in as a freshman, we had Cave, Sawyer, Kareem, Conley, Freet. We had a lot of guys before me talk about the culture and like what it'll take to win in this league. So me not getting the minutes as a freshman, I kind of just stayed my course, and I had to just wait my turn just like the other guys had to. So.
And I still can't believe you didn't play football. I mean, if anybody has seen this guy on the court, he is a beast. But I want to talk about the last. Let's start with December 14th, and we'll move forward, because you guys are on an incredible run. Five games in a row you've won, including a game against UWL, which was 7th in the country, including a game against North Park where you literally won it in the last seconds. I mean, this has been kind of a magical ride for you guys.
Yeah. All right. So the lacrosse game, we kind of went into with the mentality that if we play our hardest, we do have a chance to win, and we started clicking on all cylinders. Beisman had a big game for us, Ziegler, and that kind of just opened everything up for us. Everybody chipped in a little bit, stuff you don't see on the box score. Nick Falls, Bruce, boxing out, letting all the guards grab the rebounds from one of the best bigs in the country they have, Austin Westra. So, yeah.
And then we move forward to North Park. You guys win on a last-second three-quarter or half-court shot. Talk a little bit about that game itself, because obviously from Chicago, you got to play in front of your, I guess you could say your home crowd.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It kind of just reminded me a little bit about some high school games. You have a lot of alumni come to your games, family, friends from the opposing team. So, yeah, we went into that game knowing that this is a team that we're probably not going to see all year. A team that plays a lot of up-tempo pace. They press you the whole game. They want to tire you out before halftime, and by that time they want you to give up. So us
but
going,
you didn't.
Yeah, we did it. We pulled through. So us going into that game knowing that we had a tough week of practice, knowing that they're literally going to be all up in us, and yeah, we pulled out with the win.
41 points and that last second buzzer beater. Can you talk about that play, because obviously North Park scored just before that to go up by 2, and you've got 3 seconds on the clock. Did Joe set up a play specifically to get you the ball, or what was the plan?
So I had missed the free throw, the second free throw, and one of their plays came down and made a layup. And in practice, I talked with the Winona Daily Post about it. Fano kind of gives me the ball just going downhill. But then the last, if there's 5 seconds left, he'll just give me the ball to see if I can go downhill, either create for somebody else or get to the rim myself. But with the time being, from about the free throw line on their side to about half court, there was only 3 seconds, so I couldn't really get to the rim. So I stopped right by the bench, and I shot it, and it just went in.
It did go in.
If you haven't seen the video of that on a social media channel, be sure to look it up. It's all over Twitter, Instagram, other places as well. It was a great play. And afterwards, and I kind of joked with you about this when I saw you, you climbed the wall and almost hit your head on the scoreboard at North Park. That was incredible. But you were just trying to get away from your teammates.
Yeah, I was.
And you take those 2 wins, and then you come into the first week of the new year, and you've got Finlandia first. You take care of that business pretty easily, which is what was expected of you. But then you've got Hamlin on Wednesday, and then St. John's on Saturday. So do you find that the team has maybe changed their swagger, so to speak? I mean, I've got to imagine that you go into every game now expecting, not only hoping that you can win, but expecting that you can win.
Yeah. The swagger part, I'd say, comes with maturity. We have a lot of young guys, so once they finally figured out that this is a team game, basketball is a team sport, we kind of find out that we can play with anybody.
And that St. John's game, were you aware at all of how long it had been since St. Mary's had beaten them? It was 29 games and 14 years since our men's team beat their men's team.
Yeah, I remember Fano telling me something about it, but then it kind of hit when we came back to the locker room and we were all yelling in the locker room about how we finally beat them.
Yeah.
I find with basketball, what's really interesting is it's really all about runs. The game is the momentum that it just shifts all the time. But you guys are up by 12 halfway through the first half and go literally 9.5 minutes without scoring a bucket, and you go from 12 up to 9 down at halftime. Yeah. What was it like in the locker room at halftime? Because when you came out in the second half, it was like the switch had been flipped, and there was no way you guys were gonna lose.
Yeah. We kind of talked in the locker room that we knew that 9 minutes wasn't us. We kind of were lazy on defense, weren't taking the right shots. So we came into halftime knowing that if we want to beat a team like St. John's and don't want to get sunk into the hole of a 20-point loss, we'd have to step it up a little bit.
They did.
They did for sure. Raheem, we've kind of alluded to statistics a little bit, but I want to look at a few specific statistics with you. Yes, you're averaging 24 points a game, which I've got to believe, Donnie, is tops in the conference, right? But the number that really jumps out to me is you lead the team in assists, and it's not even close. 67 assists so far on the season. To me, that shows your team mentality, shows your unselfishness. It's freeing shots up for guys like Brayton Beisman, Owen Ziegler, Cameron Mallory, and others. So talk about the mentality of the importance of assists as much as it is scoring the basketball.
Well, I feel like those are hand in hand with each other. If you're able to share the ball, people get confidence with you being able to, you're comfortable sharing the ball with them. Mm-hmm. And when you know guys can make shots, you don't have a second thought about passing to them. Mm-hmm. Guys like Ziegler, Mallory, Sawyer, Beisman, all those guys know I'll pass to them, so they just have their hands ready and ready to shoot, and it shows them.
Well, and I've noticed, Donnie, that teams defensively have if Beisman and Ziegler especially are hitting their shots, they don't know what to do defensively.
Well, you know what's interesting, and I'll be the first to admit this because I've said it before, that coming into this season, if teams, this was my thinking, if teams could shut Raheem down, let's double Raheem and say, hey, beat us. They can't do that anymore because you've got so many people. I mean, we lead the country in three-point field goal percentage. So you've got a guy who takes it to the hoop, and really from a statistical standpoint, it's those other guys who are really, really good. Talk about that 1-2 punch, because you are a guy that's going to drive people nuts inside, and all you have to do then is kick it out to somebody who's going to knock it down.
We kind of figured out the 1-2 punch. I think I was a sophomore. We had shooters. We had Cave, Kareem, Sawyer. So once I realized that teams were just doubling me in the post, or just in general, like Hamlin does a really good job of it, where in transition, if I'm anywhere near the 3-point line, they just send 2 guys. So once I saw that people are getting wide open off just that, I just tell them, just be ready to shoot and stay confident, and you see it in the percentages with Wiseman and Ziegler.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it is this team, from all the years I've been here, this is the most complete team. And I think that, Raheem, you brought up a really good point, because we've said the names, Ziegler and Wiseman and you, Raheem, and Mallory, but there's so many others that do just as important roles. You look at a Bruce Lockwood, who is, I think he's emotionally one of the, he can charge anybody up. I just love watching him play. But you have so many other people that have a specific role on this team that sometimes gets overlooked.
Yeah. Players like Nick Falls and Lockwood, like you said, bring the energy. As you guys see, we have Nick in the circle bringing us energy. And despite being a senior and not starting, I give credit to Nick for that.
Absolutely.
And Bruce Lockwood as well. I think Bruce should be first team all defense for the MIAC. He could guard the 1 through 5, and in the St. John's game, multiple jump ball calls just for us. So those are things that don't reflect in his box score. Maybe he doesn't score the most points or grab the most rebounds, but those type of things and energy plays is what brings our team together.
And Jabari Sawyer, too, at the point, right? He's really stepped up his game this year. He's certainly more confident handling the basketball and shooting the ball as well.
Yeah. Jabari, I told him before he came he has a big role to fill in, because I obviously, sadly, was the point guard to start. So it was kind of a big role for him to fill in. And I didn't have a problem moving to the 2 or the 3 for him. And he knows what he has to do in order for us to win, and he's doing just that.
Yep. The other person that we haven't talked about that certainly has a huge part in the success that you've had is Coach Fano. Talk a little bit about what he brings to this team, and why this year, all of a sudden, it seems like all the pieces have just fit together.
Fano brings the straightforward coaching. He doesn't let anything go easy. He'll let you know right out through the door that something you're doing right, something you're doing wrong. And it's more so praise than anything negative. So kind of keeping those confidence in these guys, having meetings with the guys, always being a calling hand for a guy. I could call Fano at any time. Anybody on the team could call Fano at any time. If you need anything, if you need a tutor, help with anything, and building that relationship, I feel like will help you play better on the court.
A few other stats I want to look at, and it relates to a question that I want to ask. The question is, I want you to talk about your off-season work routine. Obviously, physically, you've gotten stronger, you've matured there. But from a stats standpoint, I look at this year, you're shooting almost 40% from three-point range. Last year, it was below 30%. This year at the free throw line, you're shooting 73%. Last year, it was closer to 50%. Those are significant jumps from an offensive standpoint. So what did you do in the offseason to improve your game in those areas?
Okay. Off-season, so I work at a park district, so I know the manager, so I was able to get in the gym before I had work and after. So a lot of it would be just a ton of reps, getting comfortable with my jump shot, because I knew I could shoot. I've always known I could shoot, but some of those times when I'd get like bad habits, I just throw the ball up there and not even worry about it. So yeah.
Okay.
You mentioned the free throws, and this actually was going to be a question that I had too. And you still see it with a lot of teams late in the game. They're going to foul you. Yeah. Because, as you mentioned, in the past, that was maybe a 1 out of 2. Yeah. But now, I mean, especially when it's crunch time, you are deadly from the free throw line, and I think it's a lost art, and I think it's something that gets forgotten from a lot of today's players is the importance of those free throws.
Free throws play a pivotal role in points in general and the team win. Because some of the games we've lost earlier, we've only lost by like 4 points, and we've missed like 9, 10 free throws in those games. So if we clean up just those free throws, let alone some of the defensive mistakes we've made, we win the game by like 5, 6 points.
So, Raheem, one more question from each of us. My last question is, 5-game winning streak is great, but I'm sure you have much larger goals than a 5-game winning streak, right? So talk about, what does your team need to do, to stay hot like this and, stay near the top of the conference standings kind of throughout the season here, because there's a lot of season left, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the end of the season. We got a long ways to go.
I feel like we just need to stay true to what we know how to do. As we've shown in the past 5 games, we know how to defend, we can shoot, and we can't have any bad practices anymore. At the start of the season, we had a couple lapses, losing a couple guys, but after break, we kind of just locked in on that aspect.
We hinted a little bit that you were fortunate enough to play with your brother for a couple of years. So, game of one-on-one, who wins?
Every
You
time.
or
Me
Kareem?
every time. Every time. Me every time.
I can't wait to see how Kareem responds.
Every time.
I hope he does.
All right, Raheem Anthony from the men's basketball team. Thank you so much, Raheem, for joining us. Good luck here the rest of the season. It's been fun to watch so far.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this Cardinals Nest. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again with another episode of the Cardinals Nest.